For spine-chilling McDonald's tales. Discover haunted secrets, sinister truths revealed. Lisa's heart raced as she stepped into the brightly lit McDonald's. The familiar golden arches now casting shadows that twisted ominously in the late-night glow. Memories flooded her mind, joyful laughter, happy meals, her kids climbing on soft playground structures. But those times felt like decades ago. Now, the air was thick with whispers of cautionary tales. How a former employee had vanished without a trace. Ghost stories traded among night workers were more than just casual chatter. They were warnings. As she turned the fryer on, the lights flickered, and a cold gust swept through the dining room. Shadows danced along the walls, fear prickling at the back of her neck. Laughter echoed faintly. Was it a memory or something else? She squeezed her eyes shut, her pulse quickening as the sounds faded into an unnerving silence. In the back room, confusion tightened her gut. Old, dusty toys lay strewn about, relics from happier days turned grave markers of vanished innocence. The sight twisted in her chest, a reminder of carefree family outings that now felt like distant dreams. Outside, sirens wailed, a reminder of the crime that had started to sweep through their once safe suburb. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The night dragged on, suffocating with every dull tick of the clock. The air seemed to shift, and Lisa suddenly felt watched, an unsettling presence lurking just beyond her sight. It was growing darker, heavier. When the door swung open, her heart stopped. A masked figure stepped in, claiming to be an undercover investigator, warning her about hidden dangers in fast food. His voice was menacing, an undercurrent of threat rippling beneath his words. Panic surged, and Lisa instinctively grabbed a tray as a shield, adrenaline kicking in. The restaurant transformed into a labyrinth of potential traps as she darted toward the storage area. Shadows loomed like specters, and every clattering tray echoed like a war drum. They struggled, her instincts battling against his strength. She could feel his hot breath on her neck as she fended him off, exposing terrifying truths that clung to the fabric of her community. In those frantic moments, doubt started to seep in. A familiar face from the neighborhood now wore an unsettling mask. As Lisa pushed through the aisles, memories collided with the chilling reality of the present. Who could she trust? Were the kind smiles of her neighbors just facades? Or was something far more sinister lurking beneath their everyday lives? The back room emitted a guttural noise, unsettling and wrong. It was a call to fear and realization, not just of her own safety but also of the monstrous secrets that shaded the sanctuary of Maplewood. Breath hitching, eyes wide, she stepped back. Something malevolent was waiting for her, creeping closer. Then, a cold, piercing gaze met hers from the shadows, chilling her to the bone. Time felt suspended between the flickering lights as the weight of her impending choice bore down on her. Fight to uncover the truth? Or flee, leaving her family's fate hanging by a thread? The line between reality and nightmare blurred, and darkness settled within the familiarity of the McDonald's. As the lights flickered violently one last time, Lisa knew she was not alone. Fear surged within her, but who was truly the monster here? Lisa could barely breathe as that gaze held her captive. It felt as if the very air in the room was being sucked away, compressing her into a suffocating ball of dread. She forced herself to tear her eyes away, scanning the dimly lit restaurant for an escape. Whispers of laughter seemed to bounce off the walls, mocking her fear, casting her deeper into that surreal nightmare. The masked figure advanced slowly, almost casually, as if toying with her. "You can't run, Lisa," he sneered, the mask obscuring any semblance of a familiar face. "It's far too late for that." His confidence twisted the knife of terror deeper into her gut. She quickly tried to recall the layout. The exit was close, but the shadows between her and freedom were thick and foreboding. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, plunging the room into darkness for a heartbeat. In that heartbeat, Lisa felt something surge within her, a primal instinct to survive. As the lights returned, she launched herself towards the side door, adrenaline firing her limbs. Just as she reached for the handle, she felt a hand clamp around her wrist, pulling her back into the suffocating shadows. "You have no idea what's really happening here," he hissed, his grip like iron, sending a jolt of panic coursing through her veins. How could he know? She had lived in Maplewood her entire life. How could a simple job at McDonald's's unravel into something so sinister? As she struggled against his hold, memories of other nights flooded her mind, her kids laughing, the smell of fries, and those tales in hushed whispers. But beneath those layers lay a darkness simmering just out of reach. What if those tales were warnings, not just ghosts of the past? Lisa felt sweat trickle down her back. She was not just fighting for her life, but possibly for her family's safety, too. With a surge of strength, she twisted her arm free and bolted toward the back room. The shadows felt alive, pulling at her like hungry fingers. She needed something, anything to defend herself. The cupboards were filled with dust-covered toys, remnants from a happier time, but they felt more ominous now. A sudden crash echoed, like a reckoning. Then she saw an old, rusty fry basket, its handle bent but the metal still sturdy. Grabbing it, she turned just in time to see him lunging forward. The confrontation was explosive. Panic fueled her energy as she swung the basket hard. He staggered back, surprise flashing in his eyes. "You're making a mistake," he growled, recovering quickly. The threat lingered like a shadow as he stared her down. "Maybe you are," she retorted, her heart pounding with fierce resolve. But uncertainty began creeping back in. She was alone in the dark with the very embodiment of her fears. Each breath felt labored. She couldn't keep backing away. As she edged toward the loading bay, the air grew colder. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered wildly again, and she could have sworn she heard whispers rising around her, murmurs of lost souls trapped within the walls. "Help us!" The voices seemed to implore, chilling her to the core. Were they calling for aid or warning her? Just then, the ground beneath her seemed to tremble as if it, too, was alive with movement. Lisa's breath caught. The walls were starting to close in, echoing with the booming thuds of her pursuer's footsteps. She couldn't outrun him forever. In a desperate bid, she threw open the delivery door, stark night spilling into the small room. But as she glanced back, the masked figure had disappeared into the shadows, watching her with those all-knowing eyes. Adrenaline surged as she slipped outside, the bite of cold night air piercing her skin. But out there, the familiar neighborhood lurked like an illusion. The safe streets of Maplewood now felt foreign and haunted, woven with tension and dread. Where was her family? Were they in danger too? Just when she thought she was free, her phone buzzed in her pocket, breaking the heavy silence. A message lit up the screen, the group chat with her neighbors. "Did you hear? Someone's gone missing again." A cold chill settled over her. Was she running towards safety or deeper into the belly of the beast? The night wasn't over yet, and whatever secrets the town harbored had only just begun to unravel. The cold wind sliced through the streets, carrying whispers that felt alive, curling around Lisa like a predator stalking its prey. Each step was a gamble. Every shadow loomed larger, mocking her desperate search for safety. The reassurance of her family felt like a distant memory, an echo fading into the darkness behind her. Panic clawed at her throat as she thumbed through her messages. Missing again, the words twisted inside her stomach, turning into a knot of dread. Had they vanished like the others? Her heart raced as thoughts of her children bloomed into unspeakable horrors. Then, the sound of footsteps broke through her despair. Heavy, deliberate, someone was following her. She glanced over her shoulder, eyes darting. A figure moved just beyond her line of sight, cloaked in shadow. Her breath hitched. Was it him? She couldn't bear to find out. Adrenaline pumping, Lisa pushed forward, every muscle screaming for her to run. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows that danced like specters. She turned a corner into an alley, a dark passageway that felt wrong, even in her moment of desperation. This was not Maplewood. This was a nightmare wearing a familiar mask. "Help me," the broken voice echoed through the tight walls, sending a shiver down her spine. Her heart pounded in rhythm with her footsteps, each beat thrumming in her ears as she rounded the corner. The alley narrowed, suffocating her in darkness. Then came a familiar sound, the distant hum of the McDonald's sign, its neon glow beckoning like a beacon. Relief surged through her, mingling with fear. Why was she headed back there? The restaurant had become the epicenter of her nightmares, yet its light promised some semblance of safety. As she stepped back inside, the normally cheerful decor morphed into a twisted memory. The air felt thick with the weight of shadows, whispered confessions pressing against her ears. "You shouldn't have come back." The words slithered through the air, chilling her to the bone. She looked around, the walls seeming to breathe as they closed in. The fry basket, still gripped tightly in her hand, felt like a flimsy shield. The tables were empty, and the laughter that had filled this place earlier now hung like a ghostly echo. Every creak from the floorboards sent her pulse racing. Then she noticed it. A door she had never seen before at the far end of the room. It stood ajar, a sliver of darkness inviting her curiosity and dread. "Don't go there," the voices hissed, rising in a crescendo of panic. But fear pushed her forward. She needed answers. She had to know what was happening. Taking a deep breath, she approached the door. The musty scent of old memories wafted out, wrapping around her like a shroud. Heartbeats thundered, a racing drum in her ears. Each step brought the door closer, but dread settled in her stomach. Just as she grasped the doorknob, someone shouted from behind her. "Lisa!" The voice was frantic, desperate. She whirled around, breaths lodged in her throat, as her kids emerged from the shadows. Relief mingled with instinctual terror. "You shouldn't be here," she cried, but it was too late. As the door creaked open, a wave of icy air poured out, and the ground trembled beneath her feet. The children stood frozen, eyes wide, as the laughter from moments before erupted again, but now sounded sinister, filled with malice. "Join us forever." The walls seemed to chant. With no time to reason, Lisa grabbed her kids' hands and turned to run. But as she dashed back toward the main area, darkness consumed the flickering lights, and the whispers reached a fever pitch. The exit was now a gaping maw, swallowing any hope of escape. Just as they approached the door, time stretched. The uncanny laughter echoed in a haunting chorus, and she felt the chilling grip of fear close around her. "Where are you going, Lisa?" came the voice from the shadows again, heavy and knowing. The night had revealed its true face. The hunt had only just begun. Would they escape the clutches of the town's ghostly secrets, or were they destined to be part of its gruesome history? Lisa's grip tightened on her children as they raced for the exit, but the suffocating shadows lurked near, and she felt their icy fingers just behind her. The door loomed ahead, dark and foreboding, as if it had teeth ready to bite. Lisa's heart thundered, a primal drum urging her to flee while she still could. She could feel the temperature drop, cold wrapping around her like a vice. The fear in her children's eyes mirrored her own, and for a moment, she hesitated. "Mom, please!" screamed Jamie, her youngest. He tugged on her hand, desperation spilling from his voice. But terror pulled her forward. A place of safety had morphed into a trap. She turned to run, her footfalls echoing against the walls, but darkness swirled around them like smoke, closing in. "Run!" she yelled, propelling them forward. The weight of the shadows pressed against her back, suffocating, licking at her heels. Each frantic sprint down the tiled floor felt like an eternity, every clatter of their shoes a reminder of the enemies that stalked them. Suddenly, the restaurant's brightly colored booths shifted, warping into grotesque shapes, faces that twisted in agony. Lisa glanced over her shoulder. The figure was there, dark, obscured, and looming closer. She couldn't bear to see it in the light. The distance shrank with horrifying speed. They dashed past the counter, the smell of grease pungent and choking. A flicker of hope flashed through her mind. The door to the kitchen. It was a long shot, but it might lead to an exit. "Mom! Over there!" Mia, her oldest, pointed to the back, eyes wide with panic. "Go," Lisa urged. But as they turned toward the kitchen, the lights flickered wildly, plunging the restaurant into brief, chilling blackness. In that moment, Lisa stumbled, her foot catching on the lip of a fallen tray. She fell forward, panic slicing through her as she grasped at the floor. Her children fell too, eyes wide and luminous like frightened deer. "No!" she hissed, scrambling to her feet as the oppressive shadows twisted ever closer. She yanked them up. "We have to move." They pushed through the doorway that led to the kitchen, a place that now felt like a trap itself. The clatter of pans echoed ominously, chased by the sickening scent of burnt oil. The door swung shut behind them, the thud reverberating through the cramped space, muffling the monstrous laughter from the dining area. "Where do we go?" Mia's voice was a whisper, dread pooling in the pit of Lisa's stomach. The kitchen felt alive, the equipment towering like giants. "Stay close," she ordered. Instinctively, she reached for the nearest exit, a door that led to a narrow hallway. It opened with an unsettling creak, revealing nothing but darkness beyond. As they stepped inside, the shadows seemed to lunge, a black tidal wave consuming the light. "What's happening?" Jamie quivered as he clutched his sister's shirt. "I don't know, but we're going to be okay." Her voice trembled, betraying her own fear. She stepped farther into the hallway, the darkness wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. But then the walls began to morph, shifting and pulsing. The very structure shook with a low groan, whispering secrets that stung like barbed wire. "Mom!" Mia whimpered, but Lisa's heart sank as she felt the ground quake beneath her feet. "Don't look back," she ordered, though dread twisted her stomach. She felt the icy breath of something lurking, waiting to pounce. Then, from the darkness, a soft giggle echoed, innocent, taunting, familiar. It reverberated through the hall, and Lisa froze. That giggle, it was too familiar. "Mommy?" Her heart dropped, legs rigid with dread as her children stared wide-eyed into the blackness. In that moment, she sensed the truth, what had been lost, and what could still be found or lost forever. And just as she turned to flee, a new shadow unfurled in the darkness behind her, and she knew they were no longer alone. Eventually, through the veil, dawn would break. But would they see it? Would they step back into the world above? Or would they meet the fate that awaited them in the depths of McDonald's twisted history? As the gripping panic enveloped them, Lisa summoned every ounce of courage. "Hold on tight," she whispered, but as she pushed forward, the laughter grew louder, drowning out all hope. What would they encounter in the darkness ahead? The hallway narrowed, walls pulsing as if they were alive, threatening to crush in on them. Lisa clutched her children's hands, heart racing, as she fought the darkness that wrapped around them like a sinister cocoon. The giggle echoed again, taunting them. "Mommy!" It wasn't just a sound. It was a lure, a beckoning hand from the abyss. "Keep moving," she barked, steering her kids down the cramped passage. With each step, the air grew heavier, thick with the stench of something rotten. The light from the kitchen flickered behind them, revealing brief glimpses of the cluttered space. They had left. The heavy pots and pans seemed like stalagmites in a cave of horrors. "Where do we go?" Jamie squeaked, his voice trembling, his grip tightening on his sister. Ignoring the panic rising in her chest, Lisa squinted ahead into the deepening shadows. She could make out a faint glow, a promise of safety, or another trap. Suddenly, Mia halted, yanking Jamie back. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, terror pooling in her eyes. "What?" Lisa snapped, annoyance threading through her fear. But then she heard it, a slithering sound, dragging across the ground, soft yet threatening, like something moving just beyond their sight. Then it hit her. The voices, whispers that swept around them, carrying with them a familiarity that was unsettling. They were unmistakably children's voices, broken and sorrowful. Laughter mixed with cries, melting into a symphony of despair. "Mom, please," Jamie whimpered, tears streaming down his cheeks, a reflection of Lisa's own fear. "I want to go home." "Me too," Mia added, her eyes darting around as if expecting to see their friends from school, appearing like mirages in the gloom. The longer they lingered in the darkness, the more the walls pulsated, as if they fed off their anxiety. "We have to find a way out," Lisa insisted, the edge of desperation coloring her tone. As they pressed on, the darkness thickened. The glow ahead flickered, revealing jagged edges that looked like teeth. It distorted the hallway, twisting it into a maddening spiral. Lisa squeezed her children's hands tighter, trying to reassure them, even as dread crept up her spine. Then, without warning, the laughter erupted again. It echoed off the walls, bouncing wildly as if trying to trap them in its web. Lisa's blood ran cold. Those sounded like children she once knew, friends lost years ago. Innocent voices entangled with malice. "Mommy!" The giggle transformed, warped, becoming something sinister and cruel. Metal clanked loudly behind them. The kitchen door had swung open again, releasing a wave of rancid air, and out stepped something from their nightmares. A figure, shrouded in darkness, but disturbingly familiar, like a distorted reflection in a broken mirror. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. "No," she breathed out, stumbling back, but her instincts screamed at her to run, to protect her children, and she could feel their fear radiating like a bright beacon in the night. "Look away." She hurled the command at Mia and Jamie, terrified of what lurked behind them. She pushed them forward, shoving against the grotesque shadow that stood in the doorway. "Go." But the hallway began to stretch endlessly, bending around them in every direction, merging into dark oblivion. The figure stepped closer, shifting into a light, flickering between realities. It beckoned, arms outstretched, the familiar giggle twisting into something dark, resonating with all the promises of childhood now morphed into horror. "Why don't you come play with us?" The whispers grew louder, drowning her resolve. Lisa's heart raced, instincts battling against the horror laid before her. "Mom! Help!" Jamie's voice cracked as he pulled back, even as Mia whispered, "Can't we stay?" "Don't listen. Stay with me," Lisa screamed, dragging them onward as the shadow lunged. She felt the pressure of fingers cold, clammy, brushing against her leg like icy ribbons. Panicked, she threw her head back to see the face that floated just above the darkness, eyes wide and gleaming with mischief. They were right behind her, and they were families too, filled with the promise of love twisted into despair. Lisa sprinted forward as the weight of the memories tore at her mind. "Hold on. Whatever happens, don't let go." But as they plunged further into the abyss, she felt the loss of her children's grip falter, and she feared the darkness would claim them all. What awaited them at the end of the hall? A way back to safety or into the clutches of something far worse. The walls throbbed violently, a rhythmic pulse that mirrored Lisa's racing heart. Panic clawed at her throat as she felt Jamie's hand slip from hers. She spun around, eyes wide. "Jamie!" But all she saw was the darkness, swallowing up her world like a hungry beast. "Mia!" she called, hoping her daughter was still behind her. The corridor twisted unnaturally, every inch of it brimming with shadows that pulsed and shifted like living ink. "Right here, Mommy." Mia's voice was strained, but she still held tight to Lisa's other hand. Relief washed over Lisa briefly, but dread sparked again. What if Jamie was lost to them now? "Keep moving," she urged, forcing her legs to propel them forward through the suffocating gloom. Each step echoed, and the darkness thickened. Shadows lashed out, brushing against her skin like whispering fingers. Every breath she took was laced with a sickening feeling of being followed. Suddenly, a howl pierced the air, high-pitched and chilling. It clawed at her sanity, reminding her too much of the children's laughter that trickled through the darkness. "Mommy, stay close," she shouted, biting back the fear that threatened to consume her. She tightened her hold on Mia's hand, glancing over her shoulder. The kitchen door stood open, the inky blackness swirling like a vortex behind them, beckoning. And then she spotted it. A flicker of movement, a flash of white darting forward behind the kitchen threshold. Jamie! Mom! Don't go! Mia cried, her grip tightening. Lisa turned to reassure her, just for a moment. But the shadows shifted, distorting everything around them. Please, a voice called from the darkness. Familiar yet haunting. It slithered into her brain, sending chills spiraling down her spine. The figure from the kitchen emerged, stepping into the dim light. It wore a smile, far too wide for comfort, revealing teeth that glinted like knives. No, Lisa whispered, her heart racing as the specter reached a hand toward her. There was an unnerving quality about it. Something entirely innocent twisted into a grotesque manipulation. Memories flooded back, old nightmares of laughter under the moon, of promises broken. Why don't you come play? It crooned, a soft sing-song that felt like ice over her skin. With primal instinct, Lisa yanked Mia into action again. Run! She screamed, propelling them further down the corridor. The walls squeezed together with a sickening squelch, forcing them into a tighter space where the air grew stale and thick. Mommy! Mia wailed as Lisa shoved her forward, desperate to escape. They stumbled, panting, their breaths fogging the air. The laughter, that wretched laughter, echoed behind them. The shadows swirled and danced, as if reveling in their torment. A glimmer caught her eye, a sliver of light at the end of the hall. But as they sprinted toward it, Lisa felt a sharp tugging sensation around her waist. Cold hands, clammy and slick, gripped her, pulling her back with a force that was as terrifying as it was familiar. Mommy! Mia screamed, her voice shattering the air. But it was drowned by more laughter, tainted and foreboding, buzzing like a swarm of angry bees in Lisa's mind. Don't look back! Lisa yelled, adrenaline pumping as she fought against the tide of shadows. Behind her, the figure pulled itself into the light, face contorting, twisting. Stay with us. Heart pounding, Lisa surged forward. The end of the hall loomed, and with it, the flickering promise of safety shimmered tantalizingly. But just how deeply did the darkness reach? As Lisa hurtled towards the light, she felt Mia slip, lost once more to the shadows. Lisa turned, panic setting in. Mia, no! But darkness had other plans, swirling to engulf them like a sinister tide. And there, just past the threshold of light, stood the gaunt figure, waiting, arms wide open. This wasn't just a hallway. It was a mouth, ready to consume everything she held dear. What waited beyond that shimmering edge? Was it salvation or the claws of the abyss, ready to snatch her last hope? The light flickered, barely holding its ground against the encroaching shadows. Lisa's eyes darted back and forth, searching for her daughter. Mia, where are you? Her voice trembled, filled with a wild fear that made her chest tight. Mommy! That was her voice. It rang out again from somewhere deeper in the dark, laced with terror. Lisa felt herself being pulled, not just by her desperate need for her child, but by an instinctive force pushing her to follow. The figure in the kitchen loomed closer, its smile wider, teeth sharper, glistening under the faint light. No! Bucking against the cold grip of the shadows, she stumbled towards the sound of Mia's cries. Fear surged through her veins. The laughter danced around her ears, a sickening, mocking melody. It echoed against the walls, growing louder with every step she took. Mia! She shouted again, forcing her legs to carry her forward despite the weight of despair that threatened to drag her down. Suddenly, she caught sight of a silhouette, a small, frantically moving shape. Mia! Relief mixed with dread as she sprinted towards it. Mia burst from behind a wall of darkness, her eyes wide with terror. But just as they locked gazes, the shadows quivered, bubbling like a cauldron, and the gaunt figure from the kitchen lunged, arms stretching impossibly long into the light. Lisa dove for her daughter, closing the distance in an instant. Grab my hand! She screamed, heart racing as the soft gurgle of the shadow monster echoed around them. Mia reached for her, fingers brushing against Lisa's fingertips. But just then, the tainted laughter flooded back in. Cold fingers, like ice, gripped Lisa's wrist, pulling her back. No. With a primal scream, she yanked herself free, just as Mia darted forward, their hands finally locking. A surge of hope coursed through Lisa, fueling her desperate bid for freedom. Run! She yelled, dragging Mia behind her, the darkness snapping at their heels like a ravenous dog. They sprinted toward the light, each footfall pounding with urgency. But the shadows molded into grotesque figures, swirling and elongating, trying to grip at their heels. Lisa could feel the whispers clawing at her sanity, the voices reaching out, desperate to ensnare them. Stay with us, they called, a cacophony of lost souls. With every step, the shimmering light ahead drew closer yet felt further away. The air crackled, heavy with anticipation, and just as they were moments away from reaching it, Mia stumbled. Mommy! In a heartbeat, Lisa turned, catching her daughter just as the shadows seized Mia's other arm, muscles tensing against the entity's pull. No, no, hold on. They fought against the chill wrapping around them, a battle of will and dread. The gaunt figure started to close in, its fingers curling and twisting. Its eyes glowed, reflecting the very essence of every nightmare Lisa had ever faced. I won't let you take her. With adrenaline pulsating through her, Lisa heaved and twisted, ripping Mia from the thing's hold. The darkness screeched, a sound that pierced through Lisa's core, yet they were free. The light widened, a doorway of shimmering promise. But as they plunged into the radiance, Lisa felt a sudden clamp around her ankle, a deeper shadow anchoring her back. The force dragged her down, seeping into her mind like a poisonous fog. Mommy! Mia cried out, her voice breaking through the chaos. But the light was fading, dimming slowly. Go, Mia! Lisa shouted, desperation tightening her throat. Run! The last thing Lisa saw as the shadows embraced her was the glimmer of Mia's tears, reflecting the light that was slipping away. And just like that, the darkness swallowed her whole. What twisted secrets lay buried within the shadows? What price would be paid for the safety of one little girl, and would Lisa be lost forever? The grip of the shadows tightened, a suffocating weight dragging Lisa into their depths. Panic surged as she fought against the dark, dread coiling in her gut. Each frantic heartbeat echoed in the silence like the countdown to an unthinkable fate. Mia! She screamed, the sound swallowed by the void. The world around her twisted, shadows warping into grotesque forms. She felt the cold, slick caress of darkness wrapping around her body, pulling her into an abyss of despair. The last image of Mia standing on the threshold of light burned in her mind. She could still hear her daughter's terrified voice, the heartbreak lacing every syllable. Mommy! The plea was a lifeline, and with a surge of willpower, Lisa clawed through the dark. Suddenly, the shadows ripped apart like a canvas slashed by unseen claws. Lisa gasped, her eyes wide as she tumbled into an unfamiliar space. The air was cold and damp, clinging to her skin like a frigid mist. She lay flat on the ground, heart racing, trying to catch her breath. Around her, darkness ebbed and flowed, alive and sentient. Francine's words echoed in her mind, words of warnings about the veils between worlds. Make it to the light, she muttered to herself, forcing herself to stand. With every breath, the shadows hissed, murmurs swirling around her, a maddening symphony of whispered temptations and tortured cries. Mia? She took a shaky step forward, heart pounding in her ears. The space around her blurred, the dim light flickering like a dying flame. Shadows pulsed rhythmically, as if breathing, as visions flitted before her eyes, cryptic images of laughter turning to screams, families lost in the inexplicable darkness. The flickering light up ahead sparked hope, a beacon calling her. Everything felt wrong, but she had to move. One foot in front of the other, Lisa walked toward it, but the shadows stretched toward her, clawing at her legs, trailing like tendrils of smoke straining to pull her back. Mia! She called again, relentlessly pushing through the fog of despair. The whispers grew louder, overlapping her calls, blurring her focus. Stay with us echoed in her mind, relentless and chilling, siphoning away her courage. She stumbled, the ground shifting beneath her as if it were a living thing trying to swallow her whole. The light seemed to dance farther away, taunting her resolve. But then, something flickered just beyond her reach. A figure stepped into the light, tall, cloaked in shadows yet shimmering with an ethereal glow. Was it a person? A reflection of something more sinister? Lisa squinted, heart racing, trying to comprehend this apparition. "Help me find Mia," she cried, desperation clawing at her throat. The figure nodded slowly, and with each motion, it seemed to dissect the shadow around her, creating a pathway. "Follow it," whispered, voice melodic yet chilling. Lisa felt an instinctive yanking inside, the urge to trust this apparition, despite the gnawing doubts. As she obeyed, the shadows wrestled, reforming, their whispers morphing into a cacophony of anger. "You cannot have her," they shrieked. The path opened, but the darkness lunged, battling for her. "No, I want to turn back," Lisa yelled, adrenaline surging through her veins. She could feel the temperature drop, the air thickening with malevolence. "Go," the figure urged, prompting her forward into the harsh, blinding light. As she ran, the shadows shrieked in fury, clawing at her heels. Would she reach Mia? Would the darkness claim them both? Just as she neared the threshold of the light, a scalding pain shot through her shoulder, a final desperate grip from the shadow. In a split second, she turned to face the entity, ready to confront its writhing visage. But the only question that lingered was, who was the shadow trying to take her? What more was it waiting to reveal? The pain blossomed like fire, igniting her senses. Lisa bit down hard, stifling a scream. The icy grip of the shadow constricted around her shoulder, pulling her back with all its might. For a fleeting moment, despair crept in. Was this the end? The final moment before darkness reclaimed her? Fight it, she snarled at herself, the urge to submit clashing with her indomitable will. The light pulsed ahead, a surreal beacon amidst the chaos. She refused to surrender, and a frantic surge of energy, Lisa wrenched herself free from the shadow's grasp, a mixture of adrenaline and terror propelling her into the blinding light. The cold fingers of darkness clawed at her back, shrieking with fury as she barreled through. Breathless, she stumbled forward. The world around her shifted again, reconfiguring itself in a wrenching carousel of images. The light blurred her vision before sharpening to reveal an expansive, barren landscape. Gray and desolate, it stretched endlessly. The sky churned above, swirling with hues of black and purple. It felt like the aftermath of a storm, choking out hope. "Where am I?" she murmured, scanning the horizon. Nothing but darkness, a void that felt hungry for her despair. Then she heard it. A distant, haunting wail pierced the air, slicing through the silence, making the hairs on her arms stand on end. Mommy, the voice was her daughter's, but it sounded twisted, warped as if echoing from a far-off nightmare. "Mia!" Her heart thundered in her chest. She stumbled, following the sound, each step intermittent with pulses of shadows that writhed beneath her feet. The emptiness felt mocking, laughter weaving through the air, taunting her desperation. As she sprinted, Lisa felt the shadows coiling again at her ankles, tripping her, whispering vile names, faces she had loved, now twisted in grotesque harmony around her. "Leave us, Lisa," they taunted, "your kind can't endure. Join us forever." "No, I'll find her," she shouted, fury igniting within her. She pressed on, the echoes of faint laughter receding, only to be replaced by muffled cries, more urgent now. "Please help," another voice strained, close yet just out of reach. She recognized it. Mia. With each scream, the shadows intensified, building a cacophony that threatened to drown her. Everything collided, the silhouettes, the dreadful whispers, a miasma of despair. Then the apparent peace of the barren landscape shattered as a flickering form appeared in the distance. Lisa squinted, heart racing, entranced by the wavering outline rising above the rubble of darkness. But was it her daughter? The closer she got, the more the figure morphed, shifting from a child's form to an indistinct figure shrouded in shadow. Panic surged. "Mia, "Is that you?" she yelled, desperation clawing at her throat. "What do you seek?" the shape asked, voice echoing and hollow. The shadows stirred, twisting around it, forming a hand. There was a familiarity in the shape, a sense of warmth that intertwined with dread. "I seek my daughter. Where is she?" The figure tilted its head, darkness rippling like water. "To find her, you must accept what you have lost." The revelation cracked like thunder inside her mind. What had she lost? More than just Mia, had she lost herself amidst the chaos? The shadows grew thick, binding around her ankles like heavy chains. The whispered voices grew louder, more persuasive. "Give in, Lisa, join us." "No," she roared, feeling the weight of grief bear down, shadows opening their mouths to swallow her whole. "I cannot." Through clenched teeth, she forced herself to face the figure, desperate to grasp the truth. "I can't lose anyone else. Not again." It gestured with the hand, offering a choice. Lisa felt the air tense, charged with right and wrong, a battle for her soul. The question lingered, heavy like an anvil in her heart. What if the only solution was to embrace that which she feared most? As doubt and determination clashed, the shadows went silent, waiting, watching. Would she sacrifice everything? The air thickened with promises and fears, and the light flickered. What awaited her? In that choice, Lisa's heart pounded like a drum, the shadows twisting around her, whispering all the fears she had buried deep inside. "You must face what you fear," the figure urged, its voice echoing with a strange familiarity. Understanding was dawning, but Lisa huddled in dread. What did she need to face? "Let her go," she cried, that familiar mother instinct roaring back to life, burning away the despair that threatened to engulf her. "She deserves to be free." The shadow shifted, its form revealing glimpses of forgotten memories. Her gleeful children playing, the laughter that once filled their home. To understand freedom, it whispered, you must accept loss. Lisa's throat tightened. They had already lost so much. She couldn't bear the thought of losing Mia too. But that whispered truth bore down on her, growing heavier with every passing moment. She had lost herself long ago, buried under motherhood, routines, and a sense of failure that haunted her, even now a shadow among shadows. As memories swirled around, Lisa felt a familiar heat working its way through her, igniting the courage that had been buried deep. "No, you can't take her." With renewed strength, she pushed against the shadows, trembling. They coiled tighter, brushing against her like a dark wind that wanted to drown her in regret. "You think you can fight us?" they hissed, mocking her efforts. "I can," she shouted back, a fierce conviction swelling within her. "I will find Mia, and I will bring her back." Its facade shattered momentarily, revealing a flicker of hope deep within, a glowing ember that fought to stay alive. And with that determination, the chains that bound her broke. Lisa hurtled forward, the shadows recoiling as though afraid of her resolve. The shimmering form, that shape that had once seemed so sinister, began to shift, glowing lighter against the encroaching darkness. Lisa surged toward it, calling out for her daughter despite the shadows still thrumming around her. "Mia!" With desperate hope, she pushed through, and the light swelled, wrapping around her, warmth spreading through her veins like a lifeline. Flickering flickers of her children's laughter flooded in, winds shifting the shadows. Memories morphed into vivid colors, painting hope along the bleak landscape. Then she saw them. There was Mia, eyes wide, filled with both fear and love, like a breath of fresh air bursting through the haze. "Mom!" She reached out just as Lisa barely got a grip on her little hand. Gripping Mia's tiny, warm hand tight, Lisa felt the stranglehold of despair loosen its grip. "Hold tight," she shouted, as the shadows writhed and screamed in fury, trying to reclaim what it had lost. They ran, shadows snapping at their heels, twisting around as they hurtled toward the pulsating light ahead. Lisa could feel Mia's energy, shining brilliantly, grounding her reality amidst the thrumming darkness, feeding off the light's warmth. Together, they vaulted through the light, the darkness swirling violently behind them, thrashing against her resolve. Just when it felt like they'd be pulled under, the radiant glow encapsulated them, enveloping them in freedom. Suddenly, silence broke like a glass dropped on pavement. With a gasp, Lisa found herself back in the McDonald's, standing by the bright golden arches. The restaurant buzzed with life, cheerful laughter echoing in the gentle hum of busy patrons. She blinked, disoriented, but found the familiar landscape soothing. Her children stood before her, looking remarkably normal, their cheeks rosy from the cold outside. They were safe. "Mama, let us eat," Jamie chirped, excitement bubbling over his words. Lisa's heart swelled as she dropped to her knees to embrace them, crushing them against her chest, feeling their warmth, their presence, their reality. "Never," she murmured, holding them tight. "Never let go." A shadow flickered by the window for just a second but faded quickly as the sunlight kissed the golden arches. Perhaps some part of her carried those shadows, a reckoning of what she defaced. But she held the warmth of her children, safe and sound, and nothing was worth more than that. They stepped outside together, the crisp air invigorating, and with a renewed sense of purpose and clarity, they breathed in the world around them. Maplewood was a quiet suburb once more, the community thriving, and they would face whatever came next together. And for the first time, Lisa felt free. If you enjoyed this gripping conclusion, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support by smashing that like button now. Don't let the algorithm miss out on this thrilling journey. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and thoughts on the ending. We love hearing from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion unfold. Your support means everything to us.